What's up, you guys? Welcome or welcome back to Align with Andrea. Thanks for checking out this video. Please remember to like and subscribe, share with others, and please comment below at the end. Let me know your thoughts. I'm not going to be giving nutritional information or scientific literature in this video, but this is totally health and wellness inspired, and it's something that is very close to my heart. So I just wanted to share my own thoughts and my personal experiences. So a couple of weeks ago, Taylor Swift's documentary, Miss Americana, came out on Netflix. If you haven't watched it yet, I highly recommend. I enjoyed it a lot. Taylor talks about her own experience and struggle with a restrictive eating disorder. And so much of what she said struck a chord with me. I could relate to a lot of it. So I wrote down everything that she does say, and then I just wanted to share my own personal experience and my thoughts on what she said. First, let me just start off by saying props to Taylor for being so brave and vulnerable and open and honest. It's difficult enough coming out and admitting that you are struggling with an eating disorder to family and friends and a small intimate group of people, let alone sharing it with millions and millions and millions of people who are constantly analyzing you, watching you under a magnifying glass, and are going to have an opinion about what you say. So I think it was very brave of her. Okay, so she starts off by saying, I've learned over the years it's not good for me to see pictures of myself every day because I tend to get triggered by something, whether it's a picture of me where I feel like I looked like my tummy was too big, or someone said that I looked pregnant or something, and that'll just trigger me to just starve a little bit, to just stop eating. It must be extremely difficult to be constantly bombarded with pictures of yourself and for everybody to be analyzing your every move. And with cyberbullying these days, I mean, it's so bad. I can't imagine some of the things that must get said to her and how nasty people probably are sometimes. So I think that would understandably be very triggering. There's always triggers with eating disorders, and I think that this is a very good example, even if it's not very relatable. Okay, then she goes on to say, I thought that I was just supposed to feel like I was going to pass out at the end of a show or in the middle of it. I thought that was how it was, and now I realize, no, if you eat food, have energy, get stronger, you can do all these shows and not feel it, which is a really good revelation because I'm a lot happier with who I am. I don't care as much if somebody points out that I've gained weight. I can definitely relate to that. You almost get used to feeling fatigued and drained, and it's like your body adapts to feeling constantly depleted. And it's actually weirdly comforting because you know that you're feeling like that as a result of something that you are doing, so you're in control of it. So I don't know if that really makes sense, but I can relate to what she said here. It's like, okay, I'm feeling like this because of something that I am doing and something that I am controlling. That's such a toxic place to be in. And so when you do start to recover and nourish your body, give it the food that it needs, it's like such a nice revelation of, oh my gosh, I forgot that I can feel this good, and I forgot that I can feel strong and full of energy, and that my body has such staying power, and that I can bounce back from a gym session or some kind of physical activity or from an illness. So that's a great revelation to have. And I think what she says about not caring as much if somebody points out that she's gained weight or makes some kind of comment on her appearance is a testament to hard work towards self-acceptance. Because if you realize and understand that your value is not in what other people think about you or in what you look like, your identity comes from Christ, and your value lies in the fact that the Lord loves you and made you. That makes all the difference in the world. So kudos to her for this also. Okay, then she goes on to say, it's just something that makes my life better. The fact that I'm a size 6 instead of a size 00. I mean, that wasn't how my body was supposed to be. I just didn't really understand that at the time. I really don't think that I knew it. I think that's an awesome quote. I remember the day that I realized and accepted that it doesn't matter how hard I try, I'm never going to be able to fit my foot into a size 3 shoe. And, I'm taller, my feet are bigger than that. So constantly trying to fit yourself into a mold that doesn't come naturally, or trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, it takes so much energy, and it's draining and it's completely exhausting. So again, I think that that's an awesome testament to self-acceptance. And then when she says, I just didn't really understand that at the time, I really don't think I knew it. We have all been able to kid ourselves in the past about something, and I don't know if it makes sense, but I hear what she's saying, and I understand where you don't really know what you're doing at the time, because your focus is not your appearance, your focus is on the control that you're so desperate to hold over your own life. Then she goes on to say, I would have defended it to anyone who said, I'm concerned about you. I was like, what are you talking about? Of course I eat. It's perfectly normal. I just exercise a lot. And I did exercise a lot, but I wasn't eating. Cannot relate to that more. It's defend to the end, deny till you die. You don't want to admit it to yourself, let alone to other people, because it's so scary to admit that you are struggling with something. So we come up with all these kind of excuses and we rationalize to ourselves so that we don't have to admit that we do actually have a serious problem. Then Taylor goes on to say, I don't think you know you're doing that when you're doing it gradually. That is also so true. Nobody wakes up one day and decides, I'm going to have an eating disorder. Nobody wakes up one day and decides, I'm going to be a drug addict today. It's insidious. These problems, they build up a little bit. And with a restrictive eating disorder, it's like I lost a pound or I lost half a kilo. Let me just lose another pound. Let me just lose another half a kilo, you know, and it's a little bit more. And then I mentioned this in my testimony video. I'll link that below if you want to go and check it out. But it gets to the point where you don't realize what's happening until you have dug yourself into the bottom of this huge pit and you actually have no idea how you got there and you have no idea how to get out. So it's this incredibly subtle, insidious process that you don't even realize is actually happening. And that's why it's so dangerous. We need to constantly examine our own thoughts and see, are we thinking positive and pure and upbuilding things, or is there something that's maybe telling us, oh, just do this a little bit more, just do this, you'll feel better. I think that's important for all of us to keep in mind. Okay, then Taylor goes on to say, there's always some standard of beauty that you're not meeting. It's all just freaking impossible. Trying to please everybody is just exhausting and it's a waste of time. And she also does chat about it a lot in the documentary about being a people pleaser. And I think that that just plays into this so well, because what people do say to you then really can affect you. So I think she put in a lot of hard work with the self-acceptance and with learning to value herself for who she is, not what other people say about her. But yeah, we can all definitely relate to that. It is freaking impossible to please everybody. There's always some beauty standard that you aren't meeting, and we always seem to want what we don't have. So just remember, you are beautiful just the way you are, and you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Okay, then Taylor says, you don't ever say to yourself, look, I've got an eating disorder, but you know you're making a list of everything you put in your mouth that day, and you know that's probably not right. But then again, there's so many diet blogs that tell you that that's what you should do. I knew for years that I had an eating disorder before I actually said it out loud and could admit it. And then when I did finally say it out loud, that declaration, it somehow made it so much more real to me. It almost like solidified it. And I remember being so shocked that I actually broke down crying, even though I had known it for a long time, but saying it out loud, it just changes things. So I get what she's saying here, that you don't ever say it to yourself. And then with the diet blogs and the things on the internet these days, there's so much information and misinformation and toxic stuff that you can find on the internet, let alone with the cyberbullying that I mentioned. So I think we should all be careful with what we expose ourselves to and what we let into our hearts and our minds, because a lot of it can be very detrimental to our health. And then finally, Taylor shows a picture of herself where her tummy doesn't look 100% flat, and she talks about this picture and says, this would cause me to go into like a real shame or hate spiral. I caught myself yesterday starting to do it, and I was like, nope, we don't do that anymore. We do not do that anymore, because it's better to think you look fat than to look sick. We're changing the channel in our brain, and we're not doing that anymore. That didn't end us up in a good place. Love that quote. This technique is very similar to something that I learned in recovery. This is probably the most useful thing that I learned, apart from learning my identity in Christ and, you know, asking the Lord to help me. But if you learn to disassociate from that voice in your head, and this doesn't only apply to people with eating disorders, we all struggle with, you know, feeling not good enough or with feelings of low self-worth sometimes. But if you think that those thoughts are coming directly from you, it's hard to detach yourself from them, because, you know, you think it's just coming from yourself. So with this technique, you detach that voice from your own mind and your own thoughts. And so I would think of this little man on my shoulder that I called Ed for eating disorder. And every time Ed would start up with, oh, you're not good enough, you're useless, you did this, you didn't do well enough on your test, you know, you lost your match, you suck, stuff like that. I learned to argue with him and to ignore him completely eventually. So if you do hear thoughts like, oh, you know, you're such an idiot, you messed up, how could you do that? Just go, no, Ed, or no to whatever that voice is. I am good enough. And like Taylor said here, we're changing the channel in our brain. We're not going to think like that. And then you just learn to ignore that voice. So yeah, this technique really works. Okay, that's it for this video. I hope you guys found it enlightening and helpful and that you learned something. And I'm glad that I could film it now because Eating Disorder Awareness Week is coming up on February 24th. So I think it was cool to be able to touch base and chat about this now. And again, I take my hat off to Taylor for being so brave and vulnerable and exposing her own struggle to literally millions and millions of people. It just shows that it doesn't matter how rich and famous you are and how many million fans you've got, and you can be this world famous singer. But eating disorders don't discriminate, and we all go through difficult periods and feeling not good enough and having feelings of low self-worth. So Taylor Swift is no different from any of us. If you are struggling with something, just remember that you are not alone, and asking for help is the first step towards recovery, and it's one of the best things that you can do for yourself. And if you don't struggle with an eating disorder or with disordered eating, if you ever have thoughts of low self-worth or I'm not good enough or I need to be more this or I need to be less that, just remember you are beautiful the way you are. You are fearfully and wonderfully made, and the Lord loves you. Please remember to go check out alignfitness.co.za. You can go check me out on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook also. Stay tuned for more food myths debunked, for more at-home workout videos, more personal random ponderings. Those will all be coming up soon. I love you guys. You must have an awesome day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!